Welcome back to Master Your Marriage. This is the third part in our Secure Relationship series. We hope you're enjoying it. We really love hearing the feedback from our listeners. Many of you shared how meaningful this series has been for you and how it's come at just the right time. One of our listeners said that she heard us talk about parity and she had this huge aha moment, realizing why her past relationship had ended. Stories like that just keep us going, and we just are so happy to continue to share with you.
So if you missed the last 2 episodes in this series, you may want to go back and listen to those first, because we're going to be developing concepts and going a little deeper each week in this series. And if you have listened to the first 2 episodes, I'm guessing that you already feel the shift that's happening inside of you, and you're ready to create something new, something better, and something lasting.
Let's do a quick recap. In episode 1 of this series, we talked about why secure functioning relationships are a necessity, not a luxury, not something that we can just maybe have. We shared the key signs of a secure functioning relationship, and we gave you the first core principle in this series, which is your relationship must come first. I know that's challenging.
And in episode 2, we went deeper into understanding why you're wired the way that you're wired and why your partner is wired the way they are. Most of our behaviors and most of our lives operate on autopilot, which is informed by our attachment styles, our childhood experiences, and the way in which our caretakers related to us as children. This brought us to our second core principle of this series, which was to become an expert on each other.
Becoming this expert helps us have this secure functioning relationship, because we all have a past that's filled with triggers. And in truth, these are old, enduring vulnerabilities and wounds that occurred long before this relationship began and have left these emotional scars. Many triggers never go away. They just pretty much endure throughout your life. Sometimes you get better at them, but usually they're just there. And as someone who is in my care, this would be Charla, I want my spouse to always feel safe, so I never want to intentionally open that old wound. This is why being an expert helps us to care for and keep each other safe.
So moving on now into the third episode in this series, we're going to take everything you've learned so far and turn it into something that you can really feel in your body every day, something that actually changes how safe you feel even when life gets hard.
Today, we're talking about what Stan Tatkin calls the couple bubble. I know there's a lot of bubbles in there. The couple bubble, which is an invisible but very real force field that you and your partner create together to protect your relationship from outside threats and inside threats. Stan Tatkin describes this as a mutually constructed sort of membrane or maybe cocoon or womb, he uses that word, that holds the two of you together and protects you and your partner from outside elements. But honestly, and maybe more importantly, it also protects the relationships from the worst moments that we bring to the relationship.
Totally. So I want to share a quick story, something really cool that I heard one time, and I loved it, so I have to share it. But years ago, I met this young newly married couple. They were still newlyweds,
They were
which
amazing.
is what was
Yeah.
so surprising about the story. And she told me that before marriage, she and her fiance formed a contract of sorts. And it wasn't a prenup that would typically protect, your finances, but maybe something actually more important. They created a different set of agreements to protect the relationship. They agreed to never use ad hominem attacks against one another. And I was really taken aback because I thought that was, first of all, an interesting word choice. And I was so impressed that they even thought to create this contract. So I asked her to tell me more. And she just said that they promised before they ever got married that they would never attack one another's character. They would never attack one another's motivations. And I remember sitting there just in awe of this young girl and how someone so young was already so wise. I think they understood this idea of the couple bubble before most of us had ever even heard the term couple bubble.
I mean, I just think about being young and newly married. Like, I don't think
Mm-mm.
thinking long term about the relationship and protecting each other and creating safety was even in my mind. I wasn't grown up enough
It took
for
us
that.
years to have those kinds of conversations.
Years.
Years.
So back to the couple bubble. It is this imaginary protective shield, as we talked. And inside this shield, inside this area, you promise to be one another's safety. You agree that the health and safety of the relationship is the number one goal. Before work, before kids, before anything else, both of you become stewards of a shared safety and security system, this bubble.
The bubble creates a set of conditions whereby the relationship never becomes the threat. So that way the relationship becomes a place that actually helps regulate both of your nervous systems. So think about it this way. When your bubble is strong, your partner's voice actually can become the thing that calms your nervous system, even on a terrible day. When the bubble is weak, on the other hand, or when that bubble is leaking because of actions that we may have taken against each other, harmful things that we've said, then the same partner who would normally soothe you actually feels like one more source of danger. And that is why insecure relationships actually have shown to shorten lifespans, and secure relationships literally act like medicine because they soothe our nervous systems. The bubble is how you make safety real in your body and not just a theory in your head.
So Charlotte and I saw this in our own marriage during COVID. And you may remember that we shared this story maybe a couple episodes ago. The exact same threats, uncertainty, isolation, fear that tore so many couples apart actually brought us together. We became closer. Why? Because we already had an agreement that we were each other's primary safe base. We protected the bubble even when we would get dysregulated, even when we'd screw up.
Yeah. So here's the neuroscience piece that actually blows most people away. When you have a strong couple bubble, your partner's presence, just their mere presence, actually downregulates your amygdala. Your amygdala, if you remember from all of our previous episodes we've talked about, is the part of your brain that is constantly scanning, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? It's scanning for threats. And this happens dozens of times per second, sometimes hundreds of times per second without your conscious awareness. And when your couple bubble is strong, the amygdala can relax. The amygdala isn't on overdrive. And that frees up an enormous amount of bandwidth in your internal resources to be able to use your energy for creativity, for play, for intimacy, or maybe even better parenting. But without the bubble, every facial expression, every offhanded comment, every eye roll is going to be interpreted by the brain as a survival threat. And that becomes so exhausting to the nervous system.
So important to have your person.
So important.
Quotes around that, your person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So important.
So how do you begin to build or maybe repair your bubble? Maybe you had one and it's time to repair it. The first thing to understand is that your bubble operates on shared principles. They're not rules and they're not laws. I want to ask you a question, and I'd love for you to kind of just sit with it this week. And then if you want to share, come over to Instagram and share it with us. Here's the question. What are the differences between principles and laws?
I love this question. I'm obsessed with this question. And I think there's a huge difference between principles and laws.
Absolutely.
And let me tell you why. Principles require self-definition, which is so important in relationships and just personally in our lives. They ask us to draw a line in the sand and declare, this is what I believe. This is what I believe is good and right. And when I adopt a principle, what I'm saying is that this is who I want to be. This is how I wish to live. This is what I believe is right. Not because anyone is watching, not because I'm afraid of some consequences that might happen or that I'm going to get caught, but because it's something extraordinarily important and meaningful to me. And because when I live true to my principles, I have a sense of self-respect. So that's a lot different to me.
I love that. I love that.
Laws are different to me than that because laws are often just necessary when people don't have principles. We live by laws because we fear punishment or because we want other people to notice us living those laws and give us approval. We don't live the laws because they feel inherently important to us.
Yeah. I would say laws, just my perspective on that is I feel like laws are something that somebody else, either it's a greater group or greater power, have created maybe for overall safety, but their laws are imposed upon you. So it's not as much free will. You're just like, oh, I just have to, I have to be in by 10 o'clock or if you're a young teen, I have to be in by 10 o'clock because there's a curfew, right? That's a law.
Yeah.
Not that you necessarily agree with it and not even that you chose it.
Yeah, free will is a big piece, isn't it?
Yeah.
With laws, there isn't necessarily free will, but by defining principles, you're actually exercising your agency.
Yeah, I love that. So think about maybe stopping at a red light. You stop because it's the law. But what if it's 2 a.m.? There's no cars, no police. Let's just say it's 2 a.m. and it's dark. You haven't seen a headlight around. There's no people. Do you still stop? What if it's a ghost town and there's nothing? Like, and maybe the light's just there blinking. Do you stop? There's no one around. I probably wouldn't stop. I might slow down, but I
Mhm.
just blow that sucker. Most of us probably wouldn't. It just makes no sense in the moment because I think we understand the intent of the law, but there's no purpose. There's no one watching and there will be no consequence.
And
That's the law.
And that is exactly why principles are so much more powerful than laws. When something is a true principle, it is much harder to break with it when no one is watching. And that's what we want, right? We want to be true to ourselves when no one is watching. It's much harder to throw out a principle, say, for example, when I'm hurt or when I'm angry or when I'm having a bad day. If something is my principle, regardless of my emotions or my feelings in the moment, I'm more likely to adhere to that principle.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so take, for example, let's look at the principle that we've been discussing for the last 3 episodes now. And that principle is that a relationship should always be a place of safety and security. Now, if I treat that as a law, well, I am going to be way more likely to break with it the moment I start to feel righteous anger, the moment that I start to get triggered, the moment that I feel like Robert has wronged me or that he's completely wrong in a situation and I'm completely right. Well, if that's a law, the safety and security thing, am I going to stick with it when I'm having a bad day?
Yeah, maybe, right?
Maybe not.
But if it's a principle, something I truly believe in, and I can defend it, then even when I'm hurt, even when I think that you're wrong, I will still do everything in my power to protect the safety of our relationship. And herein lies the important distinction. Principles must be something that I can truly defend as something that is both good for me and right for me. It is something I bring into my person.
Exactly. And the same goes for my partner, for Robert. If we decide on a relationship principle together, then we both must be able to argue or defend why it is good and right for each of us individually first before it is good for the relationship. So, for example, if monogamy is a principle in our relationship, which it is, then I must be able to defend first and foremost why monogamy is important to me, why it's good and right to me. And Robert must also be able to do the same. He must provide an argument why monogamy is good and right for him before we decide it's good and right for the relationship.
Yeah. And we must both of us selfishly want this principle to be a part of our relationship. Otherwise, it's not a principle. So when it comes to principles in your relationship, you both have to fully and personally buy in to them. Otherwise, they will be useless, especially when you need them the most.
Exactly. And that brings up an obvious question, I think, for people, which is how do we navigate principles? How do we
I
navigate
was
our
wondering,
conversations
yeah,
if maybe you have a set of principles, I have a set of principles, and maybe they're a little bit different? And here's what I think in working with couples I think people will often complain about their partner failing to keep their agreements. However, in my experience, I think that most couples think they're on the same page when they're really not, when they really haven't had conversations about their principles and they failed to discuss their principles. They failed to discuss their agreements with each other. And in that case, honestly, both partners are at fault for failing to create a system where there's collaboration, a system where there's an alliance, and a system where they have shared principles. So when I'm coaching, what I'm doing oftentimes is I'm just helping the couples to learn how to be allies. And generally speaking, I would say for most couples, when I can show them how much happier they're going to be in a secure, functioning relationship, they start to want those principles. They want shared principles because they want to be happy. They just, previous to that, they just didn't know how to collaborate. They didn't know how to get on the same page. And when they know better, they do better. So as you and your partner start discussing principles together, know that you'll need to present your case for what sorts of principles you think would make your relationship a place of safety and security.
that's a good place to start.
Yeah,
Good.
that's going to be the homework today, maybe.
Here's an example. Let's say that you pitch the idea that we should always have each other's back. If my partner were unsure about this principle, then I would need to sell her on that and make it attractive for her personally because she's going to want it to be part of her personality. She has to want it. Therefore, I can't use fear, blame, threat, guilt, or shame as a tool of persuasion because it's important to me that she adopt this principle for herself.
Yeah. So let's say we both agree, yes, this would actually benefit both of us to have each other's back. What we could do then is we could ask each other, well, why would this principle be important to you, Robert? And he could ask me, why, Charlotte, would this principle be important to you? Just you. Just you. Why would this be important to just you if it had nothing to do with me whatsoever? Why would you, Robert, want this principle? And if it is truly a principle, we should both be able to defend it as good for each of us individually first, and then secondarily the relationship.
All right, so let's bring this all back to the couple bubble. A couple bubble is a pact. It's an agreement to do things for each other that really no other person would be willing to do.
It's something that only works when both partners work on a principled level, not an I will if you will, or an I will if you're watching.
Oh, yeah.
Because principles don't depend on who is watching or what other people choose to do. They operate because it's what you choose to do to be the best version of yourself.
I like that. It's what you choose. It's about the person you choose to be.
Yeah.
When we talk about taking and internalizing these principles.
And that's why we always talk about being the best version of you, no matter what the other person is doing,
Yeah.
because you're taking a principled stance.
This brings us to the third core principle of this series. A couple bubble provides safety and security and operates from agreed principles that promote safety. Now, this doesn't mean that we won't make mistakes, be human. It doesn't mean that our quirks and little idiosyncrasies won't annoy each other. The couple bubbles won't stop us from being human. But next week, we'll talk about how to predict and plan for these mistakes so that you can set up guardrails to protect this bubble from fading.
Until then, we want to leave you with some homework. So grab a journal or the Notes app on your phone, and we're going to suggest or invite you to do this in 2 parts. So first, journal privately about 10 to 15 minutes each the following questions. So the first question is, what guarantees would you like to receive from your partner inside the bubble? What guarantees would you like to receive inside the bubble? Be specific. What would make you feel truly safe, even on your worst day?
Number 2, what guarantees would you like to give to your partner? Again, let's be specific. What are you willing to promise for your own reasons because it aligns with the person that you want to be?
Number 3, what principles do you already live by in your personal life outside of your relationship that you would love to bring into your couple bubble?
I love that. Looking back, where's your bubble felt a little bit leaky in the past? What principle could you institute that may have protected it?
Good question. Then set aside time to talk together without phones, without distractions, and share with your partner what you wrote about. And as they're sharing with you, be sure to listen with curiosity. No defending, no fixing, no, why would you think that? Just listen with curiosity and then ask each other this question. Why would this principle be good and right for you personally, even if I weren't in the picture?
Goes back to being the best version of yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Next week, we'll share with you some of our principles, and we'll also drop a full list of Stan Tatkin's 10 Commandments from his book in the show notes if you want inspiration later. But for now, we want to encourage you to discover your own first. So I had a thought as we were just sort of wrapping up today. And I remember that one of the things that I used to always say, and I don't know if I don't know if I speak for you, so you'll just tell me if we do. I used to say, when I have you by my side, I think we can conquer anything that comes up. I think that was the way that I would verbalize this sense of safety and this sense of just you and I together taking on the world.
Yeah, that was your way of saying when we have the couple bubble around us, we can do anything.
And have each other's backs. I think that's, and of course, as that's a big one too, because when you feel like someone doesn't have your back, then that really just makes everything sideways.
I think that's a good principle for everyone to put maybe down on their
That might be the first one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for listening. We're glad that you're here. If you found this episode helpful, please just leave us a 5-star rating and review. It really helps the algorithm get our message out to more people. And if you know someone who might benefit from this episode or any of our episodes, please share it with them if they might need it.
Remember to be kind to each other this week. Put each other first. It's the small things done often that really do create the biggest impact.
Until next time.